Welcome to the Church of Thomas. Universal Music 2:12:10. I read an article recently that involved the way that they were researching music and the understanding of music across cultures. And one of the interesting things is they found a great deal of commonality across the world. They were concerned about contamination of ideas, though, because to find an isolated culture someplace in the world is getting harder and harder to do. But they finally did find a group of farmers in Cameroon called Mafa. And that tribe basically has no technology and has very little, if any, contact with the outside world. They don't have any mechanisms for hearing music that is Western in origin or from other countries. And one of the things that they found out is that there was a common understanding of the emotions and feelings associated with music. Now, in a much earlier sermon, I talked about music being the language of God. And I do believe that we are keyed into that music as musical creatures. There are things that we understand on a non-rational level that are common across all of humanity. And this study actually highlighted that this is true. They played music that was Western in origin, and they were able to identify different tempos, meaning sad, happy, excited, etc. And they universally understood that if there were dissonant or minor keys, that it was negative, that there was a bad feeling associated with it. Now, one of the things that I thought was very interesting is that the Mafa have no word for music, because music is directly tied in with worship. Worship of God is directly through music. They don't have a separation of the word for everyday common use like we do. Some of the things that they found out were that happy music and no words were basically very common in their music. Let's see here. They recognized happiness, sadness, fear in the same places as Western listeners heard the same things. They also felt the same feelings. On the first listen time, tempo and key were the same. The fast major keys were associated with happy. Slow and minor keys were associated with fearful and negative things. Sadness was lack of any obvious key and no bass tempo. Now, one thing that a lot of music across the world has is a dissonance in the beginning that is associated with sadness and fearfulness, but at some point during the music it resolves into a return to harmonious tempos, and that makes people finish up on a good note. It's interesting because the Jews also used music and song as part of their worship. One very common thing is that during the Passover tradition, after the first questions that the youngster asks, why are we doing this? The Psalms 113 through 118 are sung, and they are meant as praise of God, thanksgiving of having been delivered out of Egypt, and of being able to sustain them during hardship, and the joy of wonderful things to come. Two other characters in the Bible that were renowned for singing were Moses and David. David had a great many songs that were specifically praise of God and history-carrying verse that were easy to remember because they were in verse form. So it is very traditional for music to be used as worship and to have a common thread across all humanity having to do with major emotions and conveying these emotions and teachings. God bless the whole world, no exceptions. Inshallah.